Chelsea, we've talked about what we expect for Vikings, yes. Would have meant the end, like, Vikings, you know what I'm talking about, the Vikings. So, they're going to get relegated this year. But we've talked about all sorts of futures bets that we like when it comes to each particular team, maybe some prop bets when it comes to a receiver or a quarterback, whatever it may be. What is maybe your favorite prop bet on the board right now when it comes to the NFC North?
Okay, so I have one for each team, and let's play a game. I'm going to give you all four of them, and you can veto one.
Okay.
Please don't veto them all because that will hurt my self-esteem. But here we go. So number one, for the Chicago Bears, we are going under their win total. I think it's set at 10.5. This feels like an insane number for a team with a rookie quarterback. Caleb Williams can be fantastic, and still the Bears, may have trouble winning 11 games. Like the second season that Joe Burrow had with the Bengals, in which he was flat out amazing, and they went to the Super Bowl. They only won 10 regular season games. So I feel like this is a lot to ask from Caleb Williams. Next up, we're going the Lions over their win total. Because guess what? It's set at the same number, I think. It's 10.5. I think this is an incredibly talented team. I think it's huge that they got Ben Johnson back as their offensive coordinator. Jared Goff just got paid. And they returned 4 of the 5 offensive linemen on one of the best O-lines in the entire NFL. Next up for the Packers, we're going Josh Jacobs over his rushing prop, 925. This guy led the league in rushing. 2 seasons ago. Now he's behind a much better offensive line and a much better offense with the Packers. So I feel like everybody, does better and is more efficient, when you're playing in an offense that all around is much better. Next up for the Vikings, we're going to go with Aaron Jones over his rushing prop. If you think the Vikings aren't going to put much of the pressure on their quarterbacks, which they shouldn't, I think they're starting the season with Sam Darnold, and then it's going to be J.J. McCarthy. I think that equates to a running back prop. So going to go with Aaron Jones there. So there you go. Bears under their win total, Lions over their win total, Josh Jacobs over his rush prop, and Aaron Jones over his rush prop. Which one are you throwing out?
The only one I would throw out is Aaron Jones over. I might look at his under. Now, I will say this, is that he ended the season last year with, I believe, 4 straight 100-yard games. So he was very good. But also, he's older. There's a reason why that the Packers moved on from him. So I think maybe there is a possibility that the Packers, or that Aaron Jones doesn't quite get the run that he used to have just because he is a touch older and been replaced by Josh Jacobs. But that's kind of picking nits, Chelsea. I think those are good picks.
Well, because I was trying to find at least one that I liked for every team. I think I'm kind of with you, like Aaron Jones. And here's the thing about taking season-long overs on anybody. If they miss a game, you're kind of cooked for some of these numbers. And we know Aaron Jones has a history of like kind of missing some games here and there. I think that's why the Packers went younger with Josh Jacobs. But still, those are like my best bets for the teams. Is there anything that caught your eye for you for some of these division bets?
Yeah, absolutely. And one more point about Aaron Jones, because I don't really dislike that bet. I think I'm worried about the interior of the Vikings offensive line. They're a little soft in the middle, and so I worry about them. You would think, okay, they're going to lean on their passing game or try to lean on the running game because the passing game isn't going to be so sharp. But then again, if the line isn't that good and he's a year older, maybe he's not very effective. But again, that's just me looking for holes in your bets. I like them. I have a few that I like here. Number one is I'm going over Jordan Love 26.5 touchdowns. It's minus 120. Juice to the over for a reason. I know it's not a ton of juice, but look, Jordan Love is really coming off his first full season, not in the NFL, but as a full-time starter. And remember what he did over the final 6 games of last season? 18 touchdowns, 1 pick. He had 32 touchdowns last year, and he's got a ton of weapons. The thing about the Packers receiving core, which is really fascinating, is who in the world is going to lead this team in receiving? Last year, if I said, who was it? Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs, or Jaden Reed? Who was it? It was Jaden Reed. But either one of these guys could end up being the guy because it's just a balanced young core of guys. And I think when you're talking about Jordan Love, especially since he came on at the end of last season, he will only improve. He has a higher ceiling than maybe we anticipated. So I'm going over 26.5 touchdowns for Jordan Love. I'm also going under Justin Jefferson, 1,300 and a half receiving yards. I love Justin Jefferson, arguably the best receiver in the game. Who's going to throw him the football? Sam Darnold? See how my voice cracked when I said that? Sam Darnold? I mean,
we're seeing ghosts over here.
Yes, exactly. So I will give Sam Darnold credit. He continues to kind of forge through and make a career for himself in the NFL, but this is his fourth team now. The Vikings plan on starting him and then kind of handing the reins to J.J. McCarthy, but there's no guarantee that J.J. McCarthy as a rookie is going to come in and just start throwing the ball around immediately. So as much as I love Justin Jefferson, I don't have any confidence in the quarterbacks throwing him the football. I would go under there. Here's one a little off the radar. Montez Sweat, over 8.5 sacks. I really love this. -115. He has hit this number in 3 of his last 4 seasons, had 12.5 last year, right? Remember where he led the Commanders in sacks, got traded, led the Bears in sacks, and in the one season out of those 4 that he didn't get at least 8.5, he was injured. That was in 2021 when he played in only 10 games. And I read an interview with him where he said he was just pissed off. He was angry when he was traded, did not want to be traded. And that anger has translated into him being just an absolute beast on that defensive line in Chicago. So I'm going to go over 8.5 sacks for Montez Sweat. How about that?
Ooh, I definitely like the Justin Jefferson one. I remember talking about that one, and I can't believe I forgot it. Because Justin Jefferson, like you said, is an amazing talent. But even last year, he finished with 1,000 yards. So now you have a downgraded quarterback, which, last year was kind of a blueprint for what the season is probably going to be because Kirk Cousins got hurt. So he had 1,000 yards last year. So do you think he's going to improve by 300 yards? I feel like not when the quarterback is Sam Darnold. Okay, let's talk about the sacks one. Because I'm not somebody who normally bets on defensive props because I think they're kind of tricky. Because you can be a great pass rusher. And please, I am asking honestly, you can get after the quarterback, and some days you just don't record a sack. Like, isn't that the case? Are sacks as easy to, prognosticate on as some of these other props?
I don't really think it's one way or the other. You just look at the player, you look at the history, you look at the trends, you look at the age, you look at the guys playing around him. And Montez Sweat is, and I'm probably a little bit biased here because I covered him when he played here in D.C. with the Commanders. But listen, Montez Sweat, you may not have known much about Montez Sweat until he went to the Bears and this stat came out. Man, he's leading 2 different teams in sacks. Montez Sweat has been a very good player for a long time. There's a reason why the Bears signed him to a huge extension, a huge contract. So, again, were he not injured that one season in 2021, he's getting this number 4 straight seasons, and he's absolutely at the peak of his powers. So that Bears defense should be rock solid this year. I just think it's a good play. But I also think it's a market where you get value because most people, if you're thinking about player props, you're not looking at the sack market defensively. Do you know what I mean?
Well, I'm not arguing that he's not a good player. Do you get what I'm asking here? I'm asking here is that, you can get after the quarterback and be a really good pass rusher, but sometimes it just doesn't equate to a sack.
Right.
It's the same with tackles. Like, I don't know if you've ever bet on tackles market, but the way that they grade them and the way that, like, some guys only get, like, a half tackle sometimes, it's just because I haven't bet on that market. I'm not so sure about, like, putting my full faith in it.